Welcome to the Utah Street Banter Podcast.
Hey everybody, this is Cody here at the Utah Street Banner, and we just want to say that our thoughts and prayers are with everybody involved with the accident at the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and that we can't wait to rally around Baltimore and everybody that was able to support the rescue efforts for the bridge and celebrate what a great city we have in Baltimore, Maryland. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode here at the Utah Street Banter Podcast. It's opening day eve. One of the best days of the year is happening tomorrow, which is opening day. We're super excited. I'm here with Elijah, like always. What's up, man?
Not much. How are you?
Doing great. Can't wait for opening day, obviously. It looks like we might get some rain, but we're going to pretend that it's not. We're just going to act like opening day is tomorrow. We know that we're going to get baseball, at least starting tomorrow, on a regular basis for the next, 6 months. So pretty excited about that. We're going to get started today. We're going to talk about our Baltimore Orioles and how we look going into opening day. And then we're going to knock out the projected lineups and, kind of just, look at what we get to look forward to over the next weekend or so. And we'll finish off talking about our great owner that we had, and we'll go from there. But first, let's talk about our first look at this new roster that we got coming into the 2024 season. What you got, man?
So I'm going to have a final overview of what we can look at to kind of think of the last updated roster. I'm pretty certain on all 26 men here. But I'll start off with the rotation, which we know for a fact is set with Corbin Burnes starting on opening day. Then we'll have Grayson Rodriguez following up, then Tyler Wells, Dean Kramer, and Cole Irvin to round it out. And then our members of the bullpen that we have, we're going to have Yenye Cano, Danny Coulombe, Craig Kimbrell, CNL Perez, Dylan Tate, Mike Bauman, Keegan Aiken, and then this last spot I have as either Jacob Webb or a last-minute pickup, kind of like how we had last year with Danny Coulombe as a last-minute addition to the roster. But as of right now, all we can say is Jacob Webb because he's the last member that we have in our system currently.
Nice.
And then moving on to the position player side, we'll have our two catchers, James McCann and Adley Rutschman, our first baseman, Ryan Mountcastle and Ryan O'Hearn. And then the infield will round out with Gunnar Henderson, Jordan Westberg, Jorge Mateo, and Ramon Urias. We'll also have to note that Jorge Mateo is going to be playing quite a bit of outfield this season, I'd have to predict, because we're only going to have four other outfielders in Anthony Santander, Austin Hayes, Cedric Mullins, and Colton Cowser. Then you may be wondering, well, that leaves one more spot, and that's for our recently signed infielder, Tony Kemp.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tony Kemp, man. Really good. He was a top prospect just a few years ago. Now he's coming from the A's. Man, excited. Great depth piece. Gives you some speed, but gives you great defense. His struggle is at the plate. So we'll see how it goes,
Yeah. The one thing I'm interested with him, and I think the reason I would have to assume that we got him, is that in 42 games last year, 50 at-bats, he had a .320 batting average against lefties. And I know we've been looking for a nice bat against lefties because we have quite a bit of lefties on the team. But something that's going to do damage against lefties is going to be very, very needed.
Yeah, especially, when you hear with Jackson Holliday, how he sometimes can maybe struggle against lefties when he finally gets called up, that would be somebody that could definitely help out in that situation.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that's the reason that Holliday isn't on the roster is because he's struggling with lefties, but obviously it's frustrating that he's going down to the minor leagues and not going to be playing on the Orioles on opening day, but we'll trust in Elias and hope what he's doing is going to be right.
Right. And you know what? I will say this. our talent's here, right? I mean, we look really good. We got Gunnar Henderson, we got Adley Rutschman, we got our old souls and Santander, Austin Hayes. So it's not like we don't have Jackson Holiday, so we don't have anything. So it's it's one of those things where I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit later, but I'm sure we might see Urias or Westberg over there. So it's still a solid infield. It's just not the fun guy you were looking forward to seeing. It's sort of like it's Christmas Eve and your parents won't let you open that Christmas gift and they're going to make you wait a few days, right? So, yeah.
And one last thing to note for this for the roster is that there is one name that's being left off. That means his tenure in Baltimore is most likely over, and that's Ryan McKenna. He's been playing with the Orioles for the past few seasons, and he is out of options, and him being left off of the roster means that he's going to be DFA'd, and I would have to assume he's going to be claimed by another team. So we may be done with Ryan McKenna in Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to happen. I really would be shocked if nobody picks him up and grabs that salary because the salary is so low. And, he has big league experience. So we'll see how it goes. And just for him, it's a great opportunity for him to maybe go somewhere and get quite a bit more playing time than he was getting in Baltimore. And I think the guy that really is going to struggle with this change is Brandon Hyde, because he really used McKenna late in the innings to help shore up our defense. So, but it is what it is. We have so much talent on the back end. I'm excited to see Colton Cowser. And we'll see how we do.
Yeah, no, and like you said, I think with the loss of the defensive replacement like McKenna, I think that's where Mateo's going to come in, and I think he's going to be playing, like I said, a lot more outfield, specifically maybe towards the later inning of games. Maybe you have Cowser out in center field, and his defense just isn't quite where you want it to be. You put in Mateo out there for the 8th and 9th inning just to take over and solidify that defense in a crucial spot in the outfield.
Absolutely.
And then I have here some final, I call them predictions, statements, whatever you like to call them, about this roster, just to kind of make sure everyone knows where at least I think the Orioles stand and most likely where the Orioles stand. And my first one here is about Ramon Urias, and I just want it to be known that he isn't blocking anybody. He's not the reason someone's not going to make this roster, right? He's playing Gold Glove caliber defense, and he's got a decent bat with sometimes he's got some pop, but I think he's only going to be here until Coby Mayo is ready. I think Coby Mayo is the Ramon Urias replacement and will be better than him, but I think we have to wait for Coby Mayo to be ready, which may be by the end of the season. That's what I think it's going to be, but it also may not be till next season.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that's a bad move either. I'm a big Coby Mayo proponent, but yeah, it's hard to put him in and just throw Urias what he can do for the team out immediately. So I think the best case scenario is Urias comes out hot, and then maybe that'd be a good trade piece by the mid part of the season.
Yeah, that's definitely what I think could be a possibility. But another thing I see happening with this roster is that our bullpen is definitely not as strong as last year, including the lower level guys such as like Mike Baumann, Keegan Aiken, Jacob Webb. And I could see with these three guys, 2-3 of them, I could see them almost being a constant shuttle between the Tide and Baltimore, because even though they have a lack of options, if you're not performing on a caliber team like the Orioles, you're not going to be able to stay. We need guys that are going to be able to come in day in, day out and give quality innings out of the bullpen. Even if it's a mid-release spot, low leverage, we still need runs not giving up. And if that means that Nick Vespe's coming up every other week and we have to option Mike Baumann or something, I think that's what will happen.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we've seen that the past few years. So I think even the Norfolk Tides bullpen and pitching rotation, they're used to this by now. We've been doing this for the past 2-3 years, and it seems to work. It seems to keep people fresh. So we'll see. But I don't think that's a shock. That it might be a shock to like some fans, but if you followed the Orioles quite a bit, you're used to that bandwagon of pitchers just coming and going, and they're just using their service time up.
And then another thing I have here is that Heston Kjerstad and Jackson Holiday are, in my opinion, the only two people that will be coming up to the majors anytime soon. And I don't know if you agree with me, but I just think it's because they are really the truly only two major league ready talent that we have. And the Tide, position player wise, that's going to be an impact at Baltimore.
Yeah, no, I agree. My unpopular take is I bet you Heston Kjerstad comes up first.
Yeah.
So that's what I think. He has more experience right now. The Orioles cannot bring up Jackson Holliday immediately at the deadline of, for the service time thing, because that will really make people wonder about service time manipulation. So I bet you're not going to see Jackson Holliday until, mid-May, in my opinion, which maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong. But Heston Kjerstad, I mean, he's been there. People knows what he can do. Colton Cowser better have his bat ready, because there's a guy sitting in AAA ready to take your spot. And then if there's any injury at all, I would expect Kjerstad to come in and take the spot, unless it's like a middle infielder injury. Then that would kind of press the hand for Jackson. But I mean, if you're talking first, left, center, right, then it would probably most likely be Heston Kjerstad.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, I see these two being the first men up, especially unless, like you said, if a catcher or a center fielder gets hurt. Because if it's a shortstop, second baseman, third baseman, Holliday has to come up. You can't tell me that if we have Tyler Nevin still, or whoever else we have in the minors, is going to be better than Holliday on the major league team. And say a Ryan O'Hearn or a Ryan Mountcastle gets hurt, or Anthony Santander, Kjerstad is immediately getting called up because he will have big time impact with his bat.
Absolutely.
And that's why I said in our Safer Out episode that if something happens and say O'Hearn, his value goes down and his production goes down, I think he's gone and Kjerstad is here.
I agree.
And so I have a question here for you too to end this little segment up. So do you think Anthony Santander will be traded before the end of the season?
No, I don't. I think, I'll be honest, in my opinion, if there's any guy we sign, it's him. I think the Orioles would choose him over Austin Hayes. This is all a hunch, by the way. I don't have that's just my opinion. He's probably going to be more expensive than Austin Hayes. But I think I would be shocked if we traded him. I really would. If you're trying to make a run at a playoffs, it's hard to trade your power bat in your lineup and, just a solid figure. I think if you were the Orioles of 2021 or 2019, I think he's traded, but I don't think 2024 Orioles trade. I don't think we're selling anything. Yeah. That's my opinion.
I definitely agree. I think what would make everybody come to ease of mind is if, say, he's signed a contract a couple months into the season before the deadline, maybe. But this is kind of where I'm sitting. If we don't have a contract signed by the All-Star break, by the trade deadline, and say Cowser's killing it, Kjerstad's up to replace somebody, he's doing amazing. And say even Mayo's come up and replaced an Urias or someone else, and if he's producing enough, I don't see how they could keep Santander here, because as much as I love him, Tony Two Bags, forever, Tony Taters will always be welcome in Baltimore, but I just don't see how you could sit here and say that he's going to be better in 1 or 2 seasons than a Kjerstad or Cowser, and that's nothing against him. I love him. I just don't want to see him get pushed away from Baltimore, and I'm not saying he will, but I just don't want it to be like an Adam Jones type thing where he wants to come back, but the Orioles are like, I don't know. I don't think you're really a fit anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. I would just be shocked.
Yeah.
I would be shocked. But maybe by that point, there'd be more of a clear. I think like you're saying, if you really see a Cowser, Kjerstad, Stowers, really step up and kind of push the hand, then that's what happens. But I also think that's when you would see him go to DH. And, so we'll see.
It's a really good problem for us to have, but we are just stacked with talent that we don't have enough places to put them.
Right.
Could we instead of having to pitch 9 innings, just hit 18 innings? I think we'd be better doing that.
Yeah. We'll see.
But I think you have here some review of opening day in the series. So would you like to get into that?
Heck yeah, man. Let's start it up. We got opening day series review. This is something we're going to do almost every single episode this season. And finally, we don't have to talk about a prospect that you have never heard of and tell you about stats that probably will never happen just because we are excited about our young guys. But now we're excited about the 2024 team. We're going to look at our opening day series with the Los Angeles Angels. And, I'm excited for this matchup. I'm going to the game on Saturday, so I will see the second game of the season right from the beginning, and pretty excited about that. I'm excited because I'm a big Mike Trout fan, and obviously he can't get hurt before that, I hope. So poor guy, right? So I just want to go over a few things here. So obviously opening day is Thursday, or supposed to be Thursday. As long as it doesn't rain too much. The pitching matchup for this game is Patrick Sandoval for the Los Angeles Angels. And then obviously our big guy, Corbin Burnes. Super excited. I think everybody's super excited to see him in an Orioles uniform with games that matter. The biggest thing here is the Angels in everybody's brain is just god awful, and I don't think they're as bad as people think they are. I think they're just under 400 winning percentage by the end of the season, maybe higher.
Yeah.
So, but that's not terrible. I mean, that's a team that can beat you 1 out of 3 times or 2 out of 3 if you're not careful. So the problem here is their weak spot on their team is obviously their pitching. If I tell you they're starting pitching, the average fan, I bet, doesn't know any of them. I mean, I know they're ace, but I'd say the average fan. So we're going to be facing, in game 1, we're going to be facing Patrick Sandoval. That's their ace of their team. So we'll see how it goes. He had a rough spring. He gave up 12 runs in 11 innings. He went 7-13 last season. So we'll kind of see how it goes. And he had a 4.11 ERA. So, so we really just got to make sure we hammer out runs against him.
Yeah, no, I don't even think I think he's a very good pitcher. And say he's on the Orioles, he's definitely not our 5th starter. I think I'd put him over like a Cole Irvin or Dean Kramer, but obviously not an ace such as Corbin Burnes. But I think he's going to be okay. He's not going to be great. What I'm really looking forward to is their bullpen, which is atrocious, and we should be able to tear it up, is what I'm assuming. Plus, really, we're getting unlucky because I know their first 3 starters, but I could not tell you who's going to pitch any other game of baseball for them other than those 3. And like we know, everyone knows certain players on their offense. Like you mentioned, Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon's not been playing a lot, but when he's healthy, he can still be dangerous. Taylor Ward had a really breakout season 2 years ago. Brandon Drury's just been consistent year in and year out. And they even have some rookies and young guys like Nolan Shanuel and Zach Neto. And I think their offense is going to be much, much better than their pitching. But it's going to be very underrated. And I just don't think we can go in thinking that they're going to be like the A's or a Rockies or something. They're going to be good. Like they're going to be competitive.
Yeah, and one guy that we're probably going to see on that team that looked great in that Orioles uniform last year is Aaron Hicks. So he's going to come back to Camden Yards. Hopefully, people give him some love because he did really well for the O's last season. Great pickup by our front office there. But like I said, you look at their lineup and they're not bad. You got Anthony Rendon, Aaron Hicks, Mike Trout, right? Taylor Ward, who's a stud. He had an injury plague last year. Brandon Drury, yeah, he's just, like you said, consistent. Then the Nolan Chanel guy, I'm not saying his last name right. But like I said, and Logan O'Hoppe, stud catcher. Mickey Moniak, just a great baseball name. But he's going to be an outfield for them. And Zach Neto, like I said, I think that's going to be a guy that we might be hearing about in the future. He's very good defensively. So we'll see. Not the power, not like a gunner. But so anyway, the biggest thing we got to just make sure is we have to score runs against this bad pitching staff to win games here, because I think they're going to score runs. I think once they get, they're probably saying the same thing once they get into our bullpen. But maybe we have maybe our bullpen. Let me say this: our bullpen's better than their bullpen. That's clear as day. But if there's a spot where we struggle at, they're probably saying, "Boy, we need Corbin Burnes to throw 100 pitches by the 5th inning." So that's kind of the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Let's jump to game 2. That's on Saturday. That's going to be Griffin Canning versus Grayson Rodriguez. This is probably one of my, for me personally, I'm super excited for this game. I want Grayson to come out on fire so that a huge crowd at Camden Yards can make him feel better than the huge crowd at Camden Yards made him feel in the playoffs, because that was rough. I just want him to be able to put that game behind his back as fast as possible, and him to just go out and dominate this game, because the last time we saw him pitch was not great. So just really hoping for him that he can step up. I mean, he will, but I need on a positive note.
Yeah. I think this is a perfect test for him and Corbin and any other Orioles pitchers, because as much as we said this lineup's good, they're still not going to be as good as the Yankees, as good as our lineup, or even like the Dodgers. I mean, they're not top of the baseball at all. But I think it's a good start for us. It's a really good warm up. We're gonna see where the flaws are. If someone's certain pitch, if someone's cutter, if someone's sinker is not biting like it should, it's going to show. And I think this is a good sign that we're not playing a divisional opponent or games that like really, really, really matter to show, like, to make sure everyone really gets their toes wet and gets ready for this season.
Yeah, I agree. So a game 3 that's going to be on Sunday. It's going to be most likely, things might change on the Los Angeles Angels side, but it looks to me that Reed Detmers is going to start for the Angels, and that's going to go against Tyler Wells for the O's. Last year, Reed Detmers, if you want to hear a great stat, Reed Detmers went 4-10 last year with a 4.49 ERA. So there's definitely a chance we can do some damage against him. And just to make sure everybody's aware, he had the most innings pitched on the entire team for the Los Angeles Angels. So it's definitely one thing that we can go out and try to really attack this pitching stuff. Like we've said before, I'm also excited for this game because I'm excited to see Tyler Wells. I want to see what he looks like fresh. Maybe he can show us a little bit what he looked like last year, or does he show that maybe the beginning part of last year was a fluke? That's just me being devil's advocate here. So hopefully that's not the case, and we'll see. So hopefully he can go out and show it.
Yeah, no, because last year when we played the Dodgers right after the All-Star break, I was at the Tyler Wells start, and it was kind of the beginning of the end. I think he got through 2 innings, gave up like 6-7 runs. It was ugly. He was giving up. I mean, one of the hardest balls I've ever seen hit in Camden Yards to Jason Hayward. Like, just he really struggled. And I'm really hoping he bounced back. He had good times in the bullpen last year. So I'm really hoping that he finds his nice bounce back and can maybe last a little bit longer than just half the season and the rotation. Yeah,
you might see a little bit of an in count here too. So hopefully Corbin and Grayson can keep our bullpen out of the game, at least through 6. So that way Tyler Wells can get pulled at 5.
Yeah.
So to really just keep his pitch count down and keep him healthier a little longer, because we're going to need him for the first month and a half, most likely, before maybe Bradish or Means was able to make it back. So we'll see. So yeah, and then like I said, I'm just excited to see our roster as a whole get started here against the Angels, kind of get moving, and I'm going to do my best to not panic on any negative thing, as a true Orioles fan.
And just some final things to take into mind as we're getting into this series is that if you see Jorge Mateo starting all 3 games at second base or shortstop or center field, don't be surprised. I think he's going to play a lot. I know we didn't mention it, but Patrick Sandoval, Griffin Canning, and Reed Detmers, all 3 of those are lefties. And the one thing the Orioles do not lack is lefty hitters. So you're going to see a lot of Jorge Mateo. And another thing is, don't be concerned when Gunnar Henderson isn't batting first or second. Because if he's batting, say, fifth, it's because, yet again, he's struggled against lefties throughout his career. And that's another thing that you'll see is Tony Kemp. I think Tony Kemp starts at least one game this series. It may be more, but at least one game. And it'll probably be at second base if I had to guess. But yet again, just because he's good against lefties, and our lineup is not great against lefties.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see it because I'm interested to see some moves that are being made. I'm hoping to be able to, see some of our young guys. I'm especially trying to see Colton Cowser, see what he can do, and if he can keep the amazing spring that he just had. See if he can, keep adding on to that. And then let's talk about real quick, because next week we're going to be on here in the middle of a series, hopefully. So next week on Monday, we will have the Kansas City Royals come to Baltimore. That'll be on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd before we go to Pittsburgh. But we'll talk about Pittsburgh next week. We don't have to talk about that today. But just like I said, on Monday and Tuesday, we'll have the Royals before we see you most likely on Tuesday or Wednesday on our next podcast. So really excited. Hopefully next time we get to talk, we're still in great spirits. And we'll kind of go from there. We did have some sad news this week. And as a human being, I want to be clear before we get started, is that I refuse to show any positivity over the passing of Peter Angelos. I feel like that's disrespectful. So I am going to be, Elijah will be too, in the utmost, respectful way possible, because baseball is just a game. Who gives a crap? It just makes us feel good and makes us spend money. But somebody lost a parent, you know what I mean? So a parent, father, so let's make sure we are realistic about that, and baseball will always be secondary to that, or if not even further down than that. But I'm going to let you take the lead here, Elijah, because you have quite a bit of information on this.
Yeah, and like you said, just to reiterate it, just going on social media and seeing people celebrating someone dying, no matter who it was, is just terrible to see. Certain Orioles fans need to probably rethink their lives if they're happy because someone died. And even though he wasn't the best owner, Peter definitely I wouldn't have called the best owner ever, but I kind of went through and picked some of the better moments of his career as Orioles owner and just kind of thought his life to see what type of person he was, not even owner. And it kind of surprised me. So Angelos, he bought the Orioles in 1993 for $173 million, which surprisingly was the most expensive sale of a sports team in history at the time. And just to keep in mind, the Orioles just got bought for, I was pretty sure, $1.7 billion. So return on investment is huge there.
Huge.
But so the one thing that really stood out is that Angelos, he was a labor law guy his whole career, made a lot of his money through asbestos cases, and he fought for the people of Baltimore. He fought for people. It made him rich, but he was not on any corporate side. He was really a lawyer of the people, and I almost like to say that he's an owner of the players, because so he took over in 1993, and for those of you familiar with baseball history, there was not much baseball being played in 1994 and the offseason of 1995 because of the strike. And this was due to labor wars between the owners and the players, just kind of like how it happened recently. But he was publicly against the strike and all of the owners basically during it because he was a pro player. He refused to sign a document canceling the season and blaming the players for it. He was left out of negotiations between owners and players because he was against what the owners wanted. He was one of 3 managers to oppose the salary cap, which of course is now something very big in baseball. But and the real important thing that I saw here is he was pretty much the only manager to publicly oppose using replacement players during the lockout if it extended into the 95 season. And they just wanted to find these random players basically to come in and play just so they can still earn money, because that's all most owners care about. But he refused to do that because he wanted the players to have rights. But yeah, and another thing I noticed that I just found interesting, didn't have anything to do with the Orioles, but in the summer of 2010, it was especially hot, and he anonymously donated $300,000 to keep Baltimore City public pools open, which just makes you think, yeah, I guess those same people that may have been swimming in those pools are publicly celebrating his death. So it's just, you got to think, yeah, he may have been way too hands-on. He may have tried to be a GM and failed over and over again and spent money on places like he shouldn't have, but he was still a great person. And I'm not going to come out here and say he was the best owner. I've already said that. Contracts he made just weren't great. He signed front office people and other players, and just, you look back and think, what was he doing? What was he doing giving Chris Davis $173 million? What was he doing signing Ubaldo Jimenez? I don't know, but
I will say,
conversation.
I will say, Baltimore would have lost their mind if Chris Davis signed somewhere else at that point in time, because that was a big deal. Every Baltimore Orioles fan was like, I swear, if they don't sign Chris Davis, all this stuff. So he signed him, and then the whole city rejoiced. I mean, it was a big deal. Nobody saw what happened coming to that.
No.
And then Ubaldo Jimenez, I mean, I don't know if people realize this, a year and a half before, or a year before, he won the Cy Young Award. So those are, just things that I think that wouldn't been a Angelos issue. I think that is a scouting issue. So I think, he gave the Orioles, he signed Davis because he knew he, kind of had to without, revolt. But, that's what happens.
Yeah. And then I don't know. He made decisions that an owner probably shouldn't have made. But the most important thing he did is he kept the Orioles in Baltimore. He is accredited with that. Orioles fans were all worried that after we got sold, because the owner before him, Eli Jacobs, went bankrupt, they were going to leave Baltimore. But they got someone from Baltimore to come in and buy the team and kept us here. And obviously still here today, and another Baltimore native just bought them. And David Rubenstein, who actually, if you're listening to this, the day it comes out on Wednesday, today they are voting to approve the sale, which I don't see any possibility that they turn it down. But that would give 40% of the Angelos' 70% stake in the Orioles to David Rubenstein right before opening day. And he will be getting the rest in due time. It'll just take a little bit more after Peter Angelos' passing. And just obviously, because it was a human life, I'm sure the transition of all the financial stuff will be difficult.
Yeah. So, but what you're saying though is, on Thursday, the Orioles will make massive signings and sign Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman and Jackson Holliday to 12-year deals, right?
100%. Yeah, no. Actually, the entire 26-man roster is getting signed for the next 11 years.
Because why not? We'll just who cares about money anymore?
Exactly. Yeah, no. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but it just might be a thing that maybe by the end of the season, you see an Adley Rutschman gets an extension.
Maybe.
Obviously, I'm not going to bet on it, and we have a couple years before they reach free agency, but it's something that you always have to keep in the back of your mind, that we have a great core of young players right now. Well, once they're not so young, they're going to be looking for money elsewhere. And the main thing that you have to look at is you have two major Orioles players or future Orioles players in Gunnar Henderson and Jackson Holliday, both clients of Scott Boras. And you saw how the off seasons went for all of his clients. So you hope maybe a deal can be struck up before then, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. But I'm super excited anyway. I'm going to keep all the negotiation stuff behind us now, because we finally have Orioles baseball. I'm super excited for it. I can't wait. Can't wait to see Camden Yards lit up again. And if you're an Orioles fan and you're able to get to the ballpark this weekend, we really need everybody to try to pack that place out. Show the Orioles how much we appreciate them. And we finally have a great team that is ready to play for us. We're super excited. So we'll see everybody there. We can't wait to talk to you again in our next podcast next week here at the Utah Street Banter. I'm Cody. This is Elijah. We can't thank you enough. And we will see you next week, everybody. Have a great week.
See ya.
Go Orioles.